Okay, so for months, and I guess you could say years, everyone's been asking if Cobblestone will return one day, and today that wait might finally be over. Data miners have been digging deep into the game files, and they think they've finally found Valve's smoking gun. It really looks like we're finally getting Cobblestone back, but maybe not how you remember it. For years, we've talked about this map returning and just wanting the chaos of Cobblestone back, but after the initial removal from the competitive pool, it left a hole that no other map has really filled yet, especially in CS2. On forums, social media, Reddit, basically everywhere is just begging for this map to return. And yeah, there's been rumors forever, but it's always been kind of just wishful thinking. But as of the recent updates to CS2, the evidence for a snowy Cobblestone remake isn't just a random theory anymore. It's actually got some pretty solid backing, and all of it's buried in the latest CS2 game files. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Before we get started though, if you guys could drop a like on this video, subscribe with your notifications turned on. Don't forget about the giveaway. Those details will be in the pinned comments. And now let's dive in. So to see what we're actually talking about here, these are newly added files that seem to explicitly point to a full-on snowy remake of the map. So let's break it down and what this actually means. This isn't just a couple of old texture files left over from some forgotten build. We're looking at a bunch of new actively developed assets that paint a pretty clear picture of what Valve might actually be doing. Data miners, especially the reputable guys like Gabe Follower, they've been diving into the game files for the last couple months, and what they found recently is the biggest deal yet. We're talking about the core code changes, the new material systems built specifically for a winter environment, and all neatly labeled under the Cobble prefix. And this is the kind of stuff that changes everything. We went from leaked source code to literally assets in the game files being messed with, which means something's up and something's happening. But the biggest piece of evidence, the thing that takes us from a maybe to a very likely, it isn't just a texture or a 3D model, it's a single checkmark that's found in the code. This is a new function inside the game's environment shader, and a checkmark that literally enables a snow layer that will be built inside the game. So for anyone who isn't a dev, think of it like a master switch that Valve's map makers can now just flip on and off to put a dynamic, real looking layer of snow on any surface. And this isn't just painting the ground with a static texture. The shader system like this lets the snow interact with light, more importantly the players themselves. This will be a foundational tool that Valve will be using for the many years to come. This isn't just a cosmetic thing. This will be the backbone that Valve will be using to build tools for a snow map from the ground up. There is also the new dev materials for snow sparkles, in which these will be visual effects that make it look like the light is glinting off of fresh snow, which will add a ton of realism. We've seen Valve mess with the weather before with the rainy version of Train, and these new snow effects look way more advanced than that. Back in July of 2025, Gabe Follower reported that Valve was still actively working on the Cobblestone remake, which suggests that the map is still moving along in its development, and now having the dedicated snow shader plus these new particle effects points to this being an ongoing project. Valve also apparently built in a new way to toggle the snow on and off, which just could mean some interesting things for server settings or maybe even dynamic in-game events, and not in-game events as crazy as Fortnite, but maybe some seasonal events with subtle map changes. Also, if you take a moment to just start digging around the actual file system, while the shader is the big smoking gun, there's also other evidence that's scattered around the game's folders. And for over a year, even before CS2 officially launched, we've seen files referencing Cobblestone with names like Cobble or DE Cobble underscore S2, which would probably mean the Source 2 version of the map. At first, you could say that these are just leftovers from the old game, but with the recent updates, it looks like these files are being added and built onto. Data miners have also found new textures labeled for a Cobblestone rework. We're seeing stuff for the snow-covered stone trims, frosty windows, and icy surfaces, and that these all match with the winter theme from the shader system. There's even one file that directly points to another folder named Cobblestone Ground, showing a clear and organized file structure for the map. And that kind of organized naming and structure is what you see for a project that's actively being worked on. But maybe one of the most insane discoveries when it comes to the leaked Cobblestone, gameplay-wise, this comes from Gabe Follower, who suggested that the game files are pointing to a new mechanic where players can leave footprints in the snow. And this isn't just for looks, it could be a total game changer. Imagine rotating through Courtyard and seeing fresh tracks heading to B, giving you the intel on where a player went. This would add a completely new tactical layer to the map, rewarding players who pay attention and forcing teams to rethink their rotations. Being able to track people through the trails that they leave behind would make a snowy Cobblestone remake one of the most innovative maps in the competitive pool. And this mechanic alone suggested Valve isn't just porting the old map, they might be fully reimagining it for CS2. So we've got the shaders, textures, and a potential new mechanic, but when are we actually going to see the Cobblestone remake return? For that, we've got to connect the dots and look at what Valve has done in the past. So all of this evidence is pointing to a winter theme, and it makes it seem like this remake is set to be the main event of a big CS2 winter update. And a lot of people in the community are guessing that Valve is aiming for a release a little before or a little after the CS2 major in December of 2025. And this timing just kind of makes sense. And don't get it twisted, they've done the weather theme maps before. Train got the the rainy version, and we had the files that suggested a rainy version and a nighttime version of Ancient leaked in the files for a very long time. So it seems pretty clear that Valve is into using these new dynamic weather features to refresh their classic maps and give new experiences to old players and new players, and a snowy version of Cobblestone fits right into that strategy. It plays on all the community nostalgia for every map that everyone loves, but it presents a new and exciting way to play it. The snowy theme might even make it the seasonal map that rotates into the competitive pool, at least during the winter, which would be a cool way to keep the game feeling fresh all year. But from the amount of work here, from the engine level shaders to the new gameplay mechanics, it shows that this probably isn't just a small side project. It feels more like a centerpiece of something much bigger, a huge winter update that everyone's been waiting for. This level of evidence is pretty crazy, and as we get closer to that winter time frame, more leaks are probably going to pop up. But what's really interesting though is while the snowy Cobblestone is leaked, it probably won't be coming alone. It's looking like this upcoming update could be one of the biggest gameplay focused ones that CS2 has ever gotten, at least since it launched. But along with the snowy Cobblestone remake, there's also some really strong signs that another fan favorite map like Cache is also making a comeback. It's pretty well known that Valve bought the rights to Cache, and that the creator FMPone did release his own remake to the workshop, but the recent leak suggests that Valve is now doing its own overhaul on the map, maybe to optimize it better for the Source 2 engine, or maybe even to add some other dynamic weather effects to it like they're doing with a lot of other maps. And on top of that, the game files don't lie. We just saw the long-awaited return of the retakes game mode. We've seen constant updates to the UI and logic in the game files, and to add to that pile, with the Anubis removal from the active duty map pool, a lot of players are speculating that it's also going to be getting a rework as well, which could logically be bundled into the same massive content drop that could fully switch up the active duty map pool. And don't get me wrong, I do feel like I'm reaching a bit there, but you just never know. So when you put this all together, a snowy Cobblestone remake with new mechanics, it paints a picture of a dev team that's getting ready to deliver on the community's biggest request for more gameplay content. And with the controversial update that lets you trade up to a knife, this could help Valve patch some of the wounds with many players that felt betrayed. Many players have felt like the recent updates have just been more about the cosmetics. We had the Genesis terminal that people are saying is just a blatant cash grab, and all of this evidence hints that a major shift is coming soon. This next update might just be the push that everyone's been waiting for, and to start off the new era for Counter-Strike 2. So to wrap up, it's not really a question of if Cobblestone is coming back anymore. It's like when Cobblestone is coming back and what that will look like. We have what looks like the solid proof of a snow layer shader hard-coded into the game. We have a handful of new effects and snow-themed textures, all labeled under Cobble. We have the insider reports from people like Gabe Follower about its active development, and this seems to make the return of Cobblestone completely remade, and the snowy Cobblestone a real possibility. This isn't just another map port, it looks like a ground-up reimagining of the classic map using the new tech from the Source 2 engine, and it seems like this is going to be the main part of what could be the biggest content update in CS2 history. As always, I'll be keeping an eye out, but I think that's going to wrap it up with today's video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this. Do you think we'll see the snowy Cobblestone this winter? Don't forget about the giveaway. Those details will be in the pinned comments. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. This has been Zach, and I will catch you guys in the next one.